Jai Jinendra Pranam. So today is our 8th class of Tirthankar Charitra, and I will start with a Manglacharan. Namo Ariyantaram, Namo Siddharam, Namo Ayariyanam, Namo Vajayanam, Namo Loe Savvasahunam, Eso Pancha Namukkaro Savva Pavapanasano, Manglarancha Savvesim Paramam Havai Mangalam, Ragadvesha Vijetaram, Gnataram Visvavastuna, Sakra Pujya Giramesam Tirte Samsritimanahe, Pannage cha Surendre cha Kausike Pada Sanskruse, Nirvishesha Manaskaya Sri Veera Swamine Namaha. So, in the last class, I know we had some gap last couple of weeks. So, in the last class, we were discussing about the seven Narkavas. So, we saw that there are, we started our discussion with the Jeev Vichar, and we saw that the Panchendriya Jeevs have got 535 classifications. And in the first few classes, we saw the 198 classifications of Devs in the Devlok, and after that, we started our discussion with the 14 classifications of Jeeves of Narkis. So in this class, we'll continue with our discussion about the seven Narkavas. We'll see some structure of how the seven Narkavas are constructed, or how, where they are located. And we'll see some more details about the seven Narkavas. So we have got, if you remember the names, there are seven Naraks from Ratna Prabha, Sharkara Prabha, Valuka Prabha, Panka Prabha, Dhum Prabha, Tama Prabha, and Mahatama Prabha. So in the last couple of classes, we saw that the pain and the sufferings, it increases from first to seventh Narak. That means the Jeev of the seventh Narak has got the maximum amount of pain. And we also saw the height of the Jeev, the Jeevs of Narkis, it also increases from the first to seventh Narak. And also the Ayushya. The Ayushya also increases from the first to seventh Narak. The minimum Ayushya of the Jeeves of Narkis in the first Narak is 10,000 years, and the maximum Ayushya of the Jeeves of Narkis in the seventh Narak is 33 Sagaropams. So we saw that the seven Narkavas, the thickness of the seven Narkavas, it decreases. So the first Narak, Ratnaprabha Narak, is 180,000 yojans thick, and then the last Narak is 108,000 yojans thick. So thickness of the Narak decreases as you go down, but the diameter of the Narkavas increases as you go down. Now, in the last class, we were discussing about the structure of each of these naraks. And we saw that each of these naraks is divided into pratars and antras. Now, pratars are the places where the Jews of Narkis are born. So pratars are the bhumis where the Jews of Narkis are born. And the antras are the bhumis where the Devlok, the Bhuvanpati or the Asur Kumar Devta, they live, or Parmadamis Devta, they live in the antras. So the first Ratnaprabha Narak, we saw there are 13 pratars, second 11 pratars, third Narak we have got 9 pratars, and so on and so forth. So number of pratar, it decreases from 13 pratars to 1 pratar in the 7th Narak. And we saw the height of each of these pratars is 3000 yojans. So height remains same for each of the pratars in the 7 Narkavas. So let's briefly revise what we discussed in our last class, and then we'll continue forward. So in the last class, we were discussing about the appearance of the seven Naraks. And we saw the first Narak, Ratnaprabha Narak, is divided into 3 khands. The first khand, it is 16,000 yojans, and it is known as Khar Khand. And this Khar Khand is made up of various type of precious stones. And therefore, it is known as Ratnaprabha. The second khand is known as Jal Bahul Khand or Bahul Khand. It is made of mud. And the third khand is known as Jal Bahul Khand, and it's made up of water. This is the first Narak. The second Narak, it is made up of abundance of stone, and therefore it's known as Sharkara Prabha. The third Narak, it is made up of sand, and therefore it's known as Valuka Prabha. The fourth Narak, it's made of mud. There's abundance of mud on the surface, and therefore it's known as Panka Prabha. The fifth Narak is known as Dhoom Prabha because it's made up of dense fog or smog. The sixth Narak is known as Tama Prabha. Tama means darkness. So there is darkness in the sixth Narak. And seventh Narak is known as Mahatama Prabha. There is absolute darkness in the seventh Narak that the Jews of Narkis cannot see even their own body. After that, we also discussed some of the appearance of the seven naraks, and we saw that the appearance is usually very, very disturbing and very frightening and very dreadful. There is darkness from first to seventh narak, and this darkness goes on increasing. The touch is extremely sharp. It is more sharper than the sword, and we also saw that it can be either be hot or it can be cold. And the smell in each of these seven naraks is extremely bad. If a manushya from this Bharat Kshetra goes into this one of these naraks, then his head will basically break down because of the intense smell. The taste is also extremely bitter. And the Jews of Narkis, we saw they suffer from three kinds of pains. They suffer from the Kshetragna pain, that is pain because of environmental and geographical conditions. Then they suffer from the Paramadhamikrut pain, and they suffer from the Anyakrut pain. The Paramadhamikrut pain is only up till the third narak. And the Anyakrut pain is the pain where they fight against with each other, and it exists in all the seven naraks. So in the last class, we saw that what is not in the Narak. So in Narak, there is nothing. The Narak, there is no seas, there is no mountains, there is no vegetation, there is no plants, there is no Beindriya, no Teindriya, Chaurindriya, or not even a Tiryanch Panchindriya. So nothing exists in these seven Naraks. Then we also saw some more details about the Kshetragna pain. And we saw the Jeeves of Narkis in the first three Narak, they only suffer from the hot climatic conditions. The Jeev of the fourth Narak, Pankaprabha, they have got both hot and cold. So some pratars have got hot climatic conditions and some pratars have cold climatic conditions. And the pratars with the hot climatic conditions are more than cold climatic conditions in the fourth Narak. In the fifth Narak, uh, again, the Jeev suffers from both hot and cold conditions, but the pratars with the cold climate conditions are more than hot climate conditions. The sixth Narak, there is only cold climate conditions, and the seventh Narak is extreme coldness. And in Shastra, it is said the pains from the cold conditions is usually more than the pains from the hot conditions. Then we saw the Jeeves of Narkes, they have got what we call as Vaikriya Sarir, and they have got a Labdhi known as Uttar Vaikriya Sarir. So they can create another body. They can convert the structure or the form of their own body, and at the same time, they can also create another body known as Uttar Vaikriya Sarir. And the form they usually take is that of spear or sword or something, and extremely sharp, and then they fight against the Jeeves of other Narkis. Now, this is only true for first to fifth Narak. In the sixth and seventh Narak, it is little different. The Jeeves of sixth and seventh Narak, they do not have this Uttar Vaikriya Labdhi, but what they can do is they create extremely small iron particles. It's pointed iron particles that are microscopic in size. And these thousands and millions of iron particles, they enter the other Narki Jeeves and it destroys from inside out. So that is what happens in the sixth and seventh Narak. Then we were discussing about what Jeev can go up till which Narak. So we saw the Asangni Panchindriya Jeev. There is a Panchindriya Jeev without the mind. That is some kind of water snakes and some kind of birds. They are without the mind. They can go up till the maximum first Narak. Then the animals less violent animals like monkeys, lizards, squirrels, they can go up till the second Narak. The birds can go up till the third Narak. The violent animals like lions, they can go up till the fourth Narak. The reptiles, that is snakes and pythons and so on and so forth, crocodiles, they can go up till the fifth Narak. Women can go up till sixth Narak. And the males, they can go up till the seventh Narak. Males and fishes. So there is Tandulia Machla that can go up till the seventh Narak. Then we also saw there are two types of Jeeves in the Narkis. There is Samyak Drashti Jeev and Mithya Drashti Jeev. So जिसका आयुष्य कर्म पहले बंद हो गया हो, before achieving Samyak Darshan, they can retain the Samyak Darshan while they are in Narak. For example, Krishna Maharaja, for example, Shrenik Maharaja, they are all Shaik Samyak Drashti Jeeves. उनका आयुष्य कर्म का बंध पहले हो गया. So such kind of Jeeves, they are in Subhlesha, and they think that this Narak is because of the pap karma they did in the previous life. They recollect the pap because of their Audhi Gyan, and they accept this as punishment, और वो शुभ भाव में इसको सहन करते हैं. On the other hand, the Mithya Drashti Jeeves, they are always constantly fighting against each other and causing pains to other Jeeves of Narkis. Then the last class, we were talking about the 6 glaciers. I won't go into the details, but we saw there are 3 subglaciers and 3 asubglaciers. And we saw the Krishna, Nil, and Kapot, they are asubglaciers. Um, and so here one thing to understand is one of the important questions जो हमको आता है कि कौन से जीव कौन सी नरक को जाते हैं, right? So people who are जिनका आयुष्य कर्म का बंध जब कृष्ण लेशा चल रहा हो तब उनका आयुष्य कर्म का बंध दे विल गो टू 5th 6th और 7th नरक. Okay, so extremely violent thoughts, extremely violent thinking, those kinds of jeeves will go in the 5th 6th and 7th narak. The jeeves with nil lesia, the less violent kind of thoughts, will go into 3rd 4th and 5th narak, and the jeeves with kapot lesia will go into 1st 2nd and 3rd narak. Now here the thing to understand is once the jeev goes into narak, जो भी लेशिया से आयुष्य कर्म का बंध हुआ है वही लेशिया उदय में आती है. Okay, so whatever लेशिया was there during the bandh of Ayushya Karma, the same Leshya comes into Uday. So for example, a Jeev goes into first Narak because he has done Ayushya Karma bandh when he was having a Kapot Leshya, and same Kapot Leshya will come into Uday when the Jeev is in the first Narak, and that will remain for the whole lifespan. So for example, a Jeev goes to 7th Narak, the Krishna Leshya will remain for 33 Sagropams. So Jeev will be in the same Krishna Lesha, extremely violent thoughts for the whole 33 Sagropams. So isliye we have to always remain in the Subhlesha, and we have to avoid all the Asubhleshyas. So today's class will see further. We'll talk about some of the structures of the 7 naraks. It is very interesting topic. I wanted to take this topic because it's very new for lots of people. So there are 84 lakh dwelling places in these 7 naraks. And so the first narak we saw, there are 13 pratars, and these 13 pratars have 30 lakh dwelling places. The second narak has got 11 pratars, and these 11 pratars have 25 lakh dwelling places. The third narak we saw, it has got 9 pratars and it has got 15 lakh dwelling places. Similarly, fourth narak has got 7 pratars and it has got 10 lakh dwelling places. The fifth narak has got 5 pratars, it has got 3 lakh dwelling places. The sixth narak has 3 pratars and it has got 99,995 dwelling places. In the last, the seventh narak, it has only got 5 dwelling places. It has got just 1 pratar and it has got 5 dwelling places. So let's see how the dwelling places are constructed. So these dwelling places is basically the place where they are born. So these dwelling places, they are of 3 types. They are known as Indrak, Panktigat, and Pushpavakirna. Okay, there are 3 names. First is Indrak, second is Panktigat, and third is Pushpavakirna. So the centermost dwelling places, so dwelling places situated at the center of the Narak is known as Indrak. The dwelling places that are arranged in the forms of rows originating from Indrak, they are known as Panktigat. And the dwelling places, they are scattered randomly all throughout the Narkavas, they are known as Pushpavakirna. Now the Indrak dwelling place, it is round or spherical in shape. The Panktigat dwelling place is square or triangular in shape. And Pushpavakirna dwelling place is of various ugly shapes. And the thing to remember is all these dwelling places, they have got 3000 yojans height, but the length and breadth will vary. Okay. So let's see the structure of the first Narak. Okay. So here is the structure of the first Narkavas. So the centermost dwelling places, let me create a laser pointer here. So the first Narak is known as Ratnaprabha, and the centermost dwelling place here, it is known as Indrak. This Indrak is 45 lakh yojans. Okay, so this is extremely big. It is 45 lakh yojans, and one yojan is around 12 kilometers or 8 miles. And these all dwelling places arranged in the form of rows, they are known as Panktigat. Okay, so these are Panktigat, and all the dwelling places that are scattered, these small dots, they are known as Pushpavakirna. Okay, so this in the first Narak, there are 30 lakh dwelling places. Now, let's see the 7th Narak. It's very easier to understand the 7th Narak because 7th Narak has got just 5 dwelling places. So the centermost dwelling place is known as Apratishtan Narak. This Apratishtan Narak is basically Indrak. So Indrak in seventh Narak is known as Apratishthan, and it is 1 lakh yojan in diameter. And there are 4 Panktigat Naraks known as Kal, Mahakal, Raurav, and Maharaurav. Okay. And these 4 Panktigat, they are of Asankhya yojans. Okay. So this is the structure of the seventh Narak. So each of these dwelling places, they are separated. So if a jeev is born in one dwelling place, they cannot go into another dwelling place. So it's all separated. And that's why these are known as different dwelling places. Okay. So here is the complete table of different kinds of dwelling places in each of the Naraks. So first Ratna Prabha Narak, there are 30 lakh dwelling places, and out of that 29 lakh 95,567 are Puspavakirna, and there are 1,453 Indraks, and there are 4,433 Panktigat. So similarly, you can look at the table, and the last seventh Narak, it has got 1 Indrak and 4 Panktigat. Then those are all triangular. So total, there are 5 dwelling places in the seventh Narak. Okay. So now another important facts about Narak is one question that we usually get is after from Narak, what gati does the Jeev obtain? What is the maximum gati and what is the maximum gunasthanak a Jeev can obtain after coming out from Narak? So Shastra says after coming out from Narak, the Jeev can only be born as a Garbhaj, Paryapt, Panchindriya Jeev. Okay, so Jeev can only be born as Garbhaj, Paryapt, and Panchindriya Jeev. They cannot be born as Aparyapt. They cannot be born as a Samurchim. They cannot be born even as Yuglik. They cannot be born in Devgati, and they cannot be born in Narakgati. So only place they are born is either Tiryanj or Manushya, and they have got all the 5 Paryaptis complete, and they are Garbhaj. Okay. Now the Jews coming out from all the 7 Naraks. So the Jews coming out from the 7th Narak, the last Narak, the maximum Gunasthanak they can obtain is the 4th, that is Samyak Darshan. They cannot obtain anything beyond the 4th Gunasthanak. The Jew coming out from the 6th Narak, they can obtain the Deshvirti Charitra. So they can obtain the 5th Gunasthanak. The Jew coming out from 5th Narak, they can obtain the Sarvavirti Charitra, that is the 6th Gunasthanak. The Jew coming from the first 4 Naraks can become a Kevali Bhagwant. The Jew coming out from the first 3 Naraks can become a Tirthankar Paramatma. For example, Shrenik Maharaja is in the first Narak and Krishna Maharaja is in third Narak, and they both will become Tirthankar after coming out of the first and the third Narak. Jew coming out from the second Narak can become Baldev and Vasudev, but they cannot become Chakravarti. And Jew coming out from the first Narak can become Chakravarti. So this is the maximum what they can obtain after coming out from the Narak. Now, another important topic I wanted to cover in this session is Sanghayan and Sansan. So these are 2 very important concepts that everyone I feel has to know. So, and it relates to the Jeeves of Narkis. So let's see what is Sanghayan and what is Sansthan. So in our Shastra, there is what we call as Nam Karma, and there is what you call as Sanghayan Nam Karma. And this Sanghayan Nam Karma, it basically determines the strength of the body, how strong you are. And the strength of the body is determined by how the bones or joints are connected. Okay. So there are 6 types of Sanghayan Nam Karmas. The first is Vajra Rushab Naraj Sanghayan. Second is Rushab Naraj Sanghayan. Third is Naraj Sanghayan. Fourth is Ardha Naraj. Fifth is Kilika. And sixth is Sevarth Sanghayan. So what is this Sanghayan? So to understand this Sanghayan, you have to understand the 3 terms. The first is Vajra. Vajra means nail. Okay, it is a kind of a bone nail. It is known as Vajra. Rushab is a bandage. And Naraj is a kind of twist known as Markat Bandh. So Naraj is basically a twisted bone. Okay, so there are 3 terms you have to understand. Vajra means nail, Rushab means bandage, and Naraj means a twisted bone. So first Sanghayan or the first Nam Karma is known as Vajra Rushab Naraj Sanghayan. So this is the extremely strong body. So all the 63 Salaka Purush that is all the Tirthankar Paramatma, Bhardev, Vasudevs, and Chakravartis, and all the Kevali Bhagwans, they have got this kind of body. So they have got Vajra, Rushab, Naraj, Sangayan. So in this, the two bones are connected together in a twisted manner known as Markat Bandh. They are wrapped with a bandage and they are secured with a pin. So that is extremely strong connection between the joints, and that is known as Vajra Rushab Naraj. Okay. The second is Vajra Naraj. So in this, there is no bandage. So two bones are twisted and that they are connected together and they are secured with a pin and there is no bandage. So that is known as Vajra Naraj. The third is known as Naraj Sangayan. In Naraj Sangayan, there is only two interlocking twisted bones. There is no bandage or there is no pin. The fourth type of Nam Karma is Ardhanaraj. So in Ardhanaraj, the half side of the bone is twisted and the other half is connected with a pin. It's known as Ardhanaraj. The fifth is Kilika Sansthan, in which the two bones, they are not twisted, but they are connected with the pins. And the last is known as Sevart Sangayan. In Sevart Sangayan, the two bones are not connected at all. They are not touching each other, and they are separated by what you call as liquid or flesh and tissues. So all the humans now in the Avsarpini Kal, we all have the sixth Sangayan. So we have got the weakest type of body that is possible. Okay, in the first, second, and third and fourth ara, the Jews can have the first five types of Sangayan. But in the fifth and sixth ara, the Jews only have the sixth type of Sangayan. The second concept I wanted to go over is Sansthan. So there is Sangayan Nam Karma and there is a Sansthan Nam Karma. So what is Sansthan? Sansthan is basically the structure of the body, how symmetrical the body is, how balanced the body is, or how the unsymmetrical and unbalanced the body is. It's known as Sansthan Nam Karma. So there are six type of Sansthan Nam Karmas. So first type of Sansthan Nam Karma is known as Sam Chaturas Chaturstha Sansthan Karma. So again, all the 63 Salaka Purush, there is 24 Tirthankars, Vasudevs, Prativasudevs, Baldevs, they all have this Sam Chaturas Sansthan and all the Keval Gnanis. So they all have Sam Chaturas Sansthan Karma. So in this karma, when a person is sitting in a Paryankasana, the distance from the right knee to the left shoulder, the distance from left knee to right shoulder, the distance between the two knees, and distance between the middle of the knees to the head, they are all same. So if we go to the previous slide, the distance from the left knee to the right shoulder, right knee to the left shoulder, distance between the center of the knees to the head, and distance between the two knees. So there are four measurements known as chaturas. So this is known as Sam Chaturas Sansthan, and this is extremely beautiful body. So it is extremely balanced body and extremely symmetrical body. And this type of body basically helps with the sadhana, with the kautsarg. They are able to do kautsarg for long periods of time because of the balanced body. Okay. So second time of Nam Karma is known as Nyai Parimandal Sansthan Karma. So in this type of Nam Karma, the body is short and asymmetrical below the navel, but it is symmetrical above the navel. Okay. The third type of karma is Swati Sansthan Karma. And in this type of karma, the body is symmetrical below the navel and it is asymmetrical in the upper part of the body. Then the fourth type of Nam Karma is known as Kubjak Karma. In this, the body is either hunch or it is extremely spread out in the middle portion. So it's not a balanced body. The fifth type of Nam Karma is known as Vaman Karma, in which the person is usually born as a dwarf or as a short body, in which the head, neck, hands, and legs are having proper features, but the chest and stomach, they are lacking proper features. Okay, so that is Vaman Karma. And last is Hundak Nam Karma, that is extremely ugly and irregular and asymmetrical body. Now, this information is very useful because one of the questions is which type of jeeves can go to which type of gatis. Okay, so we have got six type of sangayans, right? The sangayans is the strength of the body. So as there is increase in sangayan, so from first to second to third to the sixth sangayan, there is decrease in virya. So virya is the physical and the mental strength. So as the Sanghayan number increases, there is decrease in your physical and mental strength. And therefore, the Jews with the higher Sanghayan, they have got less strength to commit both Pap and Punya karma. Okay. And even the Nirjara. So therefore, the Jews of first Sanghayan, that is Vajra, Rushabh, Narad, Sanghayan, they can go to the moksha in the same bhav because they can do nirjara of all the karmas, and they can also go to the seventh narak because they can do the pap with extremely high intensity, both physical and mental. So therefore, the only the Jews of first Sanghayan go to the moksha in the same bhav or go to the seventh narak. All the other Jews, they cannot go to the moksha or the seventh narak. Then similarly, the people with the second Sanghayan, they can go till the 12th Devlok and go up till the maximum 6th Narak. The Jews with the third Sanghayan, they can go up till the 10th Devlok and then go up till the maximum 5th Narak. The Jews with the fourth Sanghayan, they can go up till the 8th Devlok and 4th Narak. Jews with the fifth Sanghayan can go up till the 6th Devlok and 3rd Narak. And all the other Jews like us, in this Avsarpini Kal, we have got the 6th Sanghayan, we have got the weakest body, and the maximum we can go is the 4th Devlok. So right now, the maximum we can go is the 4th, that is Mahindra Devlok, and the maximum Narak we can go is the 2nd Narak. We cannot go beyond 2nd Narak because we don't have the physical and mental strength to commit extremely pap with extremely high ras or intensity. Okay. So this was some of the important information I wanted to say about Narak. So now we'll start with the our Tirthankar Charitra. There is a lot more information to share about Narak. We'll continue with our discussion about Narak in the next classes. Um, so today we'll continue with our discussion about Bhagwan Rishabdev's Jivan Charitra. And in the last couple of classes, we saw Bhagwan Rishabdev's Chavan Kalyanak, we saw Bhagwan Rishabdev's Janma Kalyanak, and we saw in the Chavan Kalyanak that Mata Marudeva says the 14 dreams, and Saudharmendra Hindra comes to Mata Marudeva and explains the meaning of the 14 dreams. In the last class, we also saw the Janma Kalyanak of Bhagwan Rishabdev, and we saw that 56 Dik Kumaris, they come first to do the Suti Karma and birth of Bhagwan. And after that, the Saudharmendra Indra, the Indras of 12 Devlok, Indras of the Asur Kumar Nikais, they come and do the Snatra Mahotsav. And the last class, we also saw the coronation of Rishabdev as a king, and we saw how Rishabdev establishes the Rajya Vyavastha. We saw how he teaches the 72 types of science. He teaches the people how to do farming. He teaches the people how to cook food, how to trade, how to go to war. The art of war, the art of politics. So all the 72 types of skills is taught by Bhagwan Rishabdev to the Jews of the third Yuglik Kal. So in today's class, we'll talk about the Diksha, the Diksha Kalyanak of the Rishabdev Bhagwan, and we'll see his life in the form of Diksha Jivan. So from the coronation as a king, the 63 lakh of Purvas, that much time has passed in this Bharat Kshetra. So Rishabdev has been king now for 63 lakh Purvas. So one day there was a spring festival in the city, and all the citizens went to the garden. So here Bhagwan also goes to the garden, and he sees all the people enjoying the spring festival. And then he started thinking that is there any such pleasure anywhere else? And then he uses his Haudi Gnan, and he recalls his last birth as a Anuttar Viman. So Bhagwan was in the Anuttar Viman, and he recalls all the pleasures he had in this previous birth. Then Bhagwan starts thinking about the asartha of this sansar. The people who have come here to enjoy the spring festival, they do not know their own good. For Jews whose minds are blinded by mithyatva, this birth always passes in pain. Rag, Dvesh, and mithyatva cut down people's dharma to the root. While in this way, Bhagwan mind is full of disgust for the sansar, the 9 Lokantik Devs, Saraswat, Aditya, they all come from near the 5th Devlok and come to Bhagwan's feet and says to Bhagwan, the path of moksha that has been lost in this Bharat Kshetra, Just as you establish the laws and establish the Rajya Vyavastha, it's time for you to establish the Dharma Tirth and reopen the Moksha mark in this Bharat Kshetra. After that, Bhagwan also goes back to his own palace from the garden Nandavan and with desire to take Diksha and become a sadhu. So Bhagwan, he summons all the ministers and all of his 100 sons. Bhagwan says to Bharat, son, take the kingdom. Now I intend to take Diksha and pursue the kingdom of self restraint. At this speech, Bharat stood up with the folded hands, with a sad face, and with a choked voice, he says, if I should be deprived of you, what use will I have of all the glory of the sovereignty? The pleasure of this sovereignty is like a drop of ocean of milk at your own service. Bhagwan says, in any case, I am decided to take the Diksha, and in the absence of king, there will be no law and order on this earth. Therefore, son, control the earth properly, and this is my command. So, unable to transgress Bhagwan's unalterable command, Bharat Maharaja agrees, and Bharat Maharaja becomes the king and he assumes the lion throne. Next, Bhagwan gives Bahil Desh to Bahubali and divides all the other states among the remaining sons. So 1 year was left for Bhagwan's Diksha, and Bhagwan starts giving the Varshidan. Everyone may come and take whatever they desire. The Tiryak Rumbhak Devtas, they collect all the treasures, silvers, golds, jewels from everywhere that has been lost for a long time or that has been disappeared or whose owners have been missing from inside the mountains and houses and gives all to Bhagwan Rishabdev. So daily Bhagwan gives 1 crore and 8 lakhs of gold coins from sunrise to sunset. And in course of 1 year, Bhagwan gives 388 crores and 80 lakhs of gold coins as Varshidan. Then at the end of 1 year of Dan, Indra Maharaj comes with other devs and they begin to arrange the Diksha ceremony of the Bhagwan. Bhagwan puts the divine garments and ornaments brought by the devs. Here the citizens, they see the Bhagwan coming and all the citizens, they run eagerly. Some men climb the branches of trees, some see the Bhagwan, they climb the houses, and some women, they basically throw the handful of rice and they sing the blessings to the Bhagwan. Then the four classes of devs, they assemble in the sky, and the Bhagwan is surrounded by the devs and all the eminent men, like the peak of Manasottar surrounded by suns and moons. So attended by Bharat and Bahubali at the sides, Bhagwan was followed by his 98 other sons, like the lord of herd of elephants, followed by mother, wives, daughters, following the Bhagwan. So Bhagwan comes to the garden known as Siddhartha, and here he abandons all the ornaments and the jewelries as well as all the passions. Indra places Bhagwan's shoulder a Devdushya soft white cloth. Then on Chaitra Autumn, on Uttarashara Nakshatra, observed by the Devs and Mans, Bhagwan starts doing the Panch Mushti Loj. So here it's interesting, all the Tirthankar Paramatma, before they take Diksha, they do Panch Mushti Loj. So Panch Mushti Loj is a loj where they pull out all the hair with five muttis. They only use five muttis to pull out all the hair. So when the Bhagwan had finished the Char Mutti, okay, so here is an interesting story about Bhagwan Rishabdev. So when the Bhagwan had finished the Char Mutti, there were some remaining hairs, and Indra Maharaj says to Bhagwan that your hair looks extremely beautiful, so please let the last hair remain. So Bhagwan only does the Char Mushti Loj. So out of all the 24 Tirthankar Paramatma, only Rishabdev, he does the Char Mutti Loj, and all the other Tirthankar Paramatma, they do the Panch Mushti Loj. So here Swadharma Indra throws the remaining hair in the Shir Samudra and returns, and Bhagwan does the 3 days of fasting. And after 3 days of fasting, he does namaskar to all the Siddha Paramatma, Namo Saya Sava Siddhanam. In the presence of Devs, Asurs, and Manushya, Bhagwan takes the Pachkan of Javat Jivan by reciting the Karami Bhante Sutra. On this very moment of Diksha Kalyanak, Jews of the Samasta Chaud Rajlok, including the Narak, they experience happiness. And this time Bhagwan also gains the fourth Gnan known as Mana Parvar Gnan. Now, along with Bhagwan, 4,000 other kings, they also take Diksha. Some of the prominent kings were Kach and Mahakach. So they take Diksha along with the Bhagwan. So Bhagwan, after taking Diksha, they are followed by the kings, and Bhagwan, he wanders the earth in silence. Bhagwan did not get Gochri anywhere, even on the day where he breaks the fast. The people at that time, they were simple and they were not aware about the Gochri or Supatardhan. So some people brought Bhagwan horses, some people brought elephants, ornaments, garments, garlands, gold and jewels, and as they knew Bhagwan as the king before. Bhagwan, always wandering, made the earth pure like a Jangam Tirth, and Bhagwan endured extreme pains of hunger and thirst. In the same way, all the 4,000 kings who had taken Diksha with the Bhagwan, they followed the Bhagwan. They were all worn out by the hunger. They were deficient of the knowledge of tattvas, so they thought according to their own knowledge. So these 4,000 kings who were following the Bhagwan, they started thinking that Bhagwan does not take water, Bhagwan does not eat fruits, Bhagwan is indifferent to his own body, Bhagwan does not bathe or anoint himself, Bhagwan does not put ornaments or garlands, Bhagwan is always covered by dust. He endures extreme heat and is not exhausted by heat or cold. He does not resort to sleep. Now he does not favor us a glance like we were some kind of criminals. He is not talking to us. Formerly, we always did what Bhagwan commanded. Now he has become silent and commands nothing at all. So what are we supposed to do? So after talking among themselves, they decided to go into the woods on the banks of river Ganga, and they ate the fruits and bulbs as they liked. From that time, there on this earth there were ascetics or the sadhus that were living in the jungles. Now the sons of Kutch and Mahakutch, these are the famous Nami and Vinemi. If you have heard of Nami and Vinemi, right? Nami and Vinemi, they went to moksha from Satrunjay Parvat with I think 2 crore munis. So the sons of Kutch and Mahakutch, they were known as Nami and Vinemi. They had gone to some distant foreign countries on Bhagwan's command. So returning by the road through the forest, they see their fathers. They started wondering why our fathers are in such a state. When we left, they had garments, they had ornaments, and they rode on elephants. They bowed and questioned their fathers. So Kutch and Mahakutch said, after abandoning the kingdom, Bhagwan gave it to Bharat and other sons, and he took Diksha. And under the excitement of taking Diksha, we also followed the Bhagwan and took Diksha. But after being oppressed by the sufferings of hunger and thirst and cold and heat, we decided to give up the Diksha, and we are now living in the forest and we are following our own path. So saying that, Nami and Vinami, saying we shall also go to the Bhagwan and ask for the share of the earth. So Nami and Vinami, they approached the Bhagwan. Now, not knowing that Bhagwan was in Kautsarg, Nami, they did the Vandan, and both they say to the Bhagwan that you send us to the foreign country, as a duty as your servant, we went to the foreign country and we are now returning back, and you gave all the kingdom to Bharat and the sons. Why was no territory, even the smallest land, given to us? Has Bhagwan seen some kind of fault in us? Please answer. But Bhagwan does not reply because Bhagwan is in Kausar. So even when the Bhagwan does not speak, they continue to serve the Bhagwan. So they lay the dust, they sprinkle the water, they brought the flowers, and they also, guarded the Bhagwan day and night with the swords drawn as a guardsman. And 3 times a day, they did Vandan to the Bhagwan with folded hands, and they continue to ask that, hey Bhagwan, please give us the kingdom. So one day, Dhanendra Dev, that is Nagaraj Indra, Dhanendra Indra from Nagkumar Devta, he comes for the Vandan of Bhagwan Rishabh Dev. And to his amazement, Dhanendra sees Nami and Vinami asking for wealth from Bhagwan Rishabh Dev like children. Indra says to Nami and Vinami, who are you? And where were you when Bhagwan was giving Varshidan? So both Nami and Vinami says that we are servants of Bhagwan, and Bhagwan himself sent us far away, and we are now returning back. And when we come back, the kingdom is divided between the 100 sons and we have nothing left. So Dhanendra says that go and ask Bharat Maharaja and he will give you some land. And they said that, for us, Bhagwan is the only master. And Bhagwan is the only one that we are going to serve. We are not going to go to Bharat Maharaja and ask for any favors. So Dhanrendra was impressed by Nami and Vinami's devotion to Bhagwan. He says that I am the Devendra of Patal Lok. I am impressed by your firm resolve. Besides Bhagwan, no one else is to be served, and that is a very, very good thing. So, as a fruit of service to him, I will make you Raja of Vidyadhars. So, here Dhanendra Dev gives 48,000 Vidyas to Nami and Vinami. And he told them that go to the Vidyadhar Parvat and buy your Vidyas, and there form the two rows of cities. Going to Aryan Paramatma, they make a Viman known as Pushpak, and, and they tell the fathers Kach and Mahakach about their newfound prosperity as a fruit of service to Bhagwan Rishabdev. So taking their families, they go to the Vidyadhar Parvat, and 10 yojans above the earth, King Nami makes 50 cities on the mountain on the southern side, and similarly, King Vinami makes 60 cities on the northern side. So this is how, this is also a story how the Vidyadhar cities, they come into existence. It comes into existence from Nami and Vinami by the Vidyas given by Dhanendra. So two rows of Vidyadhar cities, it looked extremely beautiful. And after making villages, suburbs, and they establishes the communities according to the suitability of the place. And Nami and Vinami, they also installed the Pratima of Bhagwan Rishabdev. So here Dhanendra Dev instructs all the people about the laws. He says if any person shows disrespect to Bhagwan Rishabdev or any sadhu Bhagwans, the Vidyas will abandon them. And Nami and Vinami ruled the Vidyadhar kingdom for long periods of time, enjoying the pleasures as well as visiting all the holy places like Nandishwar Dweep for worship of Shaswati Pratimas. So here, Nami and Vinami's father, Kach and Mahakach, along with 4,000 other who were dwelling in the forest, wearing garments made of bark of trees, not touching householders' food, their bodies had become extremely thin because they were eating dried leaves, dried fruits. But in their heart, they continued to think about Bhagwan Rishabdev. They only loved Bhagwan Rishabdev. So here, Bhagwan Rishabdev, after wandering in silence for one whole year without food or water, reflected that only the food with 42 uh, falls of gochri should be taken by a sadhu. And with that thought in mind, Bhagwan sets out to obtain gochri, and he arrives in the city of Gajpura. Here, the citizens of Gajpura, they see the Bhagwan coming, and they run towards the Bhagwan and they surround the Bhagwan. Some people, they didn't know what to offer, so people starts offering clothes. Some people starts offering oil, sandals, camphor, musk, ornaments, garments, elephants, horses, chariots, fruits like ripe mangoes. We cannot, sadhu cannot take such fruits. So Bhagwan does not reply. So people start saying that why are you not accepting our hospitality? Why do you make us useless? Have we committed any kind of crime? And why are you not answering to us? And why are you not speaking to us? Even though urged in this way, Bhagwan does not reply. And seeing the unsuitability of the Gochri, he goes from house to house. Okay. So here we'll end today's session. And the next session, we'll see how the Bhagwan breaks the fast, 400-day fast. And we'll see the importance of also the Akshay Tritiya. We celebrate the Akshay Tritiya as a Varshitab, and by breaking the 400-day fast. And the next class, we'll talk about the Bhagwan's breaking of fast and also the Keval Gnan of Bhagwan Rishabdev. So we'll end our class today. So if you have any questions, you can ask.
I have a question. So, what's a pratar again?
Any questions from anyone?
Wait, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. So, what's a pratar?
What is?
A pratar?
Oh, Pratar. Okay, so Pratar is so we talked about this structure of the Narak, right? So in
Yeah.
the first Narak, Ratna Prabha Narak, right? There are 12 Pratars and 12 Antras. So these Pratars are the place or the bhumis where the jeeves of Narkis can be born. So there is one Pratar, one Antra, one Pratar, one Antra. So similarly, there are like 13 Pratars and 12 Antras. And the pratars are place where Jews of Narkis are born, where there are all the dwellings for the the naraks. And antras are the place where the Asur Kumar devtas, Parmadami devtas, and Bhuvan Patis devtas, they reside. Okay, so each of this narak, so Ratnaprabha narak has 13 bhumis. Then if you see the second narak, it has got 11 bhumis or 11 pratars, and this number of pratars, it decreases from 13 pratars to 1 pratar in the seventh narak.
Okay, I got it now.
Okay.
Chaital uncle?
Huh.
Can any living being in Devlok go to Narak, and can any infernal being go to Devlok?
Okay, no, that's a good question. So yes, so Jews from the Vaimanic Devlok, they can go to the Naraks, and there is also a story of Sita going to visit Lakshman in the Narak. So Sita is in 12th Devlok, the Jeev of Sita. In Ramayana we know Sita, right? So Sita, Jeev of Sita is in 12th Devlok, and Lakshman is in, I think, is in 6th, yeah, 6th Narak. So Sita basically pays a visit to Lakshman because Lakshman is in lots of pain in 6th Narak. So she basically visits Lakshman just to give her sata, just to explain her and give him some kind of. But that is only sometimes that happens because the Jews going from Devlok to Narak, the bhumi of Narak is extremely bad. So even the the Vaimanic Devlok, they hardly go and visit the Narak. Now, as far as the second question, can the Asur Kumar Devtas, can they go to the Vaimanic Devlok? Uh, they can go only up till the first Devlok, just below the first Devlok. They cannot go above that. Okay, does that answer your question?
हाँ यस चितल भाई हाँ
Okay.
नहीं और ये पूछना था कि जो देवलोक में जिनका आयुष्य पूरा हो जाता है फिर वो नरक में बॉर्न होते हैं कि नरक नहीं
नहीं सो सिमिलर टू नरक राइट नरक के जीव का आयुष्य खत्म होने के बाद दे डू नॉट गो टू देवलोक दे कैन ओनली बी बॉर्न एज अ मनुष्य गर्भज तिर्यंश या गर्भज मनुष्य या तिर्यंश सो देवलोक में ऐसा है दे कैन नॉट गो डायरेक्टली टू नरक they have to be but devlok ke jeev they can also be born in ekindriya okay so devlok mein thoda alag hai they cannot go to narak but they can be born as a manushya they can be born as a tiryansh or they can be born as ekindriya jeevs as well
okay और नारकी के जीव जब उनका नरक का आयुष्य पूरा हो जाता है तो उन्हें कभी देवलोक नहीं मिलता है सीधा राइट
सीधा नहीं मिलता उनको पहले उनको मनुष्य में अवतार लेना पड़ता है उसके बाद उनको अगर सम्यक दर्शन मिले तो दे कैन गो टू देवलोक
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any more questions?
Chaital Bhai,
Huh.
what is Sachit and what is Asachit Jeev?
Okay, that is good question. What is Sachit and what is Achit, right? So Sachit मतलब जिसमें जीव है उसको सचित कहते हैं. Okay, so all the fruits, all the vegetables, all the अपना कच्चा पानी is also Sachit. So those are all the fruits, vegetables, कच्चा पानी वो सब सचित में आता है. Even सचित नमक होता है असचित नमक होता है. So those सचित मतलब जिसमें जीव है उसको सचित कहते हैं. पर उसके बाद फॉर एग्जाम्पल once you cut the fruits and let it remain for 48 minutes उसमें से जीव चला जाता है and becomes अचित. अचित मतलब without any जीव, तो वो अचित हो जाता है. ओके सो सचित मतलब विद द जीव, अचित मतलब विदाउट द जीव. जैसे हम पानी को बॉईल करते हैं तो वो अचित हो जाता है सचित से.
Okay, thank you.
थैंक यू.
ओके चेतल भाई आपने बोला कि 48 मिनट्स को फ्रूट कट करके रखने के बाद उसमें से जीव चला जाता है बट जब 48 मिनट्स हम फ्रूट्स को रखते हैं तो क्या उसमें जीव उत्पन्न नहीं होता है?
नहीं 48 मिनट्स तक जीव उत्पन्न नहीं होते ना कहीं पे भी. अभी जीव अगर तुम्हारा थूक या कुछ लगा हो तो 48 मिनट्स के बाद तुरंत जीव उत्पन्न होने लगते हैं. पर अगर तुमने कुछ उसको टच नहीं किया हो तो उसमें जीव उत्पन्न नहीं होंगे, उसमें से जीव चले जाएंगे. और वो अचित हम फिर महाराज साहब को भी दे सकते हैं. अगर महाराज साहब गोचरी के लिए आते हैं तो अगर पता हो कि महाराज साहब पूछते हैं कि ये फ्रूट या जो भी सचित है अचित है तो 48 मिनट्स के बाद हम महाराज साहब को भी, क्योंकि महाराज साहब का धर्म के हिसाब से दे कैन ओनली यूज अचित, दे कैन नॉट यूज सचित.
Okay, so basically Sachit is all raw form and Achit is all cooked form.
राइट एग्जैक्टली, इसलिए हम यहाँ पे सैलाड खाते हैं, पर सैलाड्स भी हम नहीं खा सकते, हम रॉ सैलाड नहीं खा सकते क्योंकि वो सचित है, हमको कुक करके ही खाना चाहिए। कोई भी
Okay.
वेजिटेबल वी हैव टू ऑलवेज कुक, हमको सॉल्ट भी हमको कुक करके ही खाना चाहिए, रॉ नहीं खाना चाहिए। सो वी हैव टू मेक श्योर वी मेक फॉर आवर सेल्फ भी हम लोग अचित ही खाए, पानी भी बॉईल करके पिए, फ्रूट्स भी 48 मिनट्स तक रखे काट के, वेजिटेबल्स को भी कुक करके खाए, रॉ ना खाए कुछ भी।
Okay.
Any more questions? Okay. अगर questions नहीं है तो we can count one नौकार मंत्र। नमो अरियंतानम, नमो सिद्धानम, नमो आयरियानम, नमो वज्जायानम, नमो लोये सव्वसाहुनम, ऐसो पंच नमुक्कारो सव्व पाव परासनो, मंगलानंच सव्वे सिं परमम अभिमंगलम। जी नागना विरुद्ध बोलायो तो इच्छा विरुद्ध। Thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.